You ever have a moment so shocking, so raw, that time seems to freeze and in that frozen second, something inside you just changes? Yeah, I had one of those, and it started at a state youth talent show I was assigned to inspect. I wasn't there to make headlines or stir up drama. I was just doing my job, clipboard in hand, federal badge tucked into my coat. But what happened that day? It stuck to my ribs like bad news, and I've carried it ever since. The auditorium was buzzing. Parents whispering nervously, kids jittery with stage fright. It was one of those grand old buildings, red velvet curtains, high arches, old school charm, renovated recently thanks to state and federal grants. That's why I was there. I'm with the Federal Office of Public Event Integrity and Safety. We make sure public events, especially those hosted in federally funded venues, are safe, inclusive, and accessible. I'd spent the morning checking wheelchair ramps, fire exits, and doing the usual run-throughs with the event manager, Greg. Nice guy, overwhelmed, but trying. I also met this kid backstage. Name was Mason. 10 years old, sweet smile, thin arms, eyes that sparkled like he'd swallowed a handful of stars. He rolled up to me in his wheelchair, grinning ear to ear. "Want to see something cool?" he asked, then pointed to the LED lights on his wheels that pulsed to the beat of music. His mom Rachel stood behind him, one hand on his shoulder, proud but anxious. "He's been rehearsing this for months," she told me. "He's got brittle bone disease, so we've always been careful. But this is his dream." Mason's act was called Skybound. Choreographed wheelchair dance, animated projections synced to his movements, and a cape he'd designed himself to look like his favorite comic book hero. His joy was contagious, made even my cynical federal heart soften. The show kicked off. Acts came and went, applause, laughter, even a few tears. Then came Mason's turn. The lights dimmed, his cape fluttered behind him, and that kid took the stage like he was born for it. You ever watch someone do the thing they were meant to do? It's electric. Every twist of his chair, every lift of his arms told a story of flying, falling, and soaring again. The crowd was with him. You could feel it. Until she stepped onto the stage. She stormed in from stage right, like a glitch in the Matrix. Stiff posture, pearls, eyes sharp as ice picks. I'd noticed her earlier, complaining backstage about how her daughter, some ballerina type, had been given the wrong dressing room. Her name was Patricia Langford, HOA president back in her upscale neighborhood, and she wore entitlement like it was a badge of honor. She marched straight toward Mason, shouting about how this wasn't a real act, how it was embarrassing to put pity projects on a real stage. And then she did the unthinkable. She shoved him. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't accidental. Her hand hit the back of his chair with purpose. Mason toppled sideways. His chair clanged on the wood floor. The lights flashed wildly, projections froze mid-flight. The room gasped. Time froze. I moved before I thought. Years of training kicked in. I signaled 2 security guards nearby with a firm, silent point. They looked stunned, but followed my lead. Patricia stood there, panting like she'd just cleaned up a mess no one else had the guts to handle. "This is a disgrace," she said out loud, voice sharp, shrill. "He doesn't belong here." I approached her, calm, cold. "Ma'am," I said, flashing my badge. "You're being detained. Step off the stage." She scoffed. "And who are you supposed to be? Another enabler? Federal event inspector. And you just assaulted a minor in a federally funded public venue." Her face drained of color, then flushed red. "This is ridiculous. I barely touched him. That boy's unstable, shouldn't even be on stage." Meanwhile, Mason was crying. His mom had sprinted from the wings, clutching him close. Paramedics were already on standby. They rushed in, assessing injuries. "My arm. My head hurts," he whispered. He was cradling his wrist. Given his condition, that could mean a fracture. Or worse. Greg, the event manager, appeared beside me, pale as chalk. "Should we stop the show?" "Your job right now," I told him, "is to get every phone recording from that moment, secure the scene, and give those medics a clear path. The show can wait." Backstage, Patricia was foaming at the mouth about lawsuits and her husband's law firm. "You're done," she told me. "My husband will eat your agency alive." "I hope he's hungry," I said, "because he's going to have to chew through federal hate crime laws." See, this wasn't just about a push. This was about motive. And I already had my suspicions. So I started digging. Turns out, Patricia had a record not criminal, but social. Letters to the editor, complaints at school board meetings, confrontations with other parents, all aimed at keeping things traditional and protecting kids from what she called distractions. A week after the incident, a parent came forward. Her name was Tanya Wilkes. She used to be friends with Patricia. She looked exhausted when we met, like someone carrying something heavy for too long. "She planned it," Tanya said. "She said the night before she was going to do something if that boy got on stage. Not maybe. She said she'd make sure it didn't happen. Called it a charity act." Tanya gave us a written statement. That, combined with video footage from the show, turned the case from emotional to airtight. At the state hearing, it all came out. The footage, the planning, Patricia's online comments under fake accounts mocking disability inclusion, calling these acts performative sympathy. And then came Mason. He testified, not from his chair but standing, shaky, with crutches and a cast on his arm. He said, "I didn't want to be a hero. I just wanted to dance. She didn't even know me, but she hated what I represented." He looked straight at Patricia and said, "You didn't break me. You made me stronger." She looked away. The verdict? Guilty on all counts. State assault charges. Federal civil rights violation under the ADA. 3 years in prison. Banned from public events on federal property for life. And Mason? He danced again the next year. This time as the opening act. Standing ovation. Not a dry eye in the room. The agency I worked for used the case to launch a national training protocol. We rewrote policies on protecting vulnerable performers. We created resources for event staff to spot and de-escalate ableist confrontations before they turned violent. Me? I still carry that badge. Still do the work. But I carry Mason's words too. "You didn't break me." It's easy to let hate disguise itself as tradition or concern or what's best for the kids. But when it pushes a child off a stage, you see it for what it is. So let me ask you something. What would you have done if you were in that room? If you saw a child rise above his limits only to be dragged down by someone else's ignorance? Would you speak up, step in, or would you just hit record and walk away? Let me know in the comments. Share this if it moved you. And if you've ever seen something like this in your community, say it out loud. Because silence doesn't protect the vulnerable. It just shields the guilty. Thanks for listening.